Alright, so in the last video we found out some information about our target, which is Heisenberg Corp, and we found some potential users that are on this company. We have Walter, Jesse, Saul, and Hank, and we found some open ports, which are again ways for us to possibly get access to the computers, the company's systems. And today what we're going to use is we're going to use a program called Hydra. Now, Hydra is a network logon cracker, and it's kind of like password cracking, which we'll cover in the next tutorial. But what this does is it uses what's called a word list. Now, a word list is simply just a generation of known words from the dictionary, passwords that people have used in the past, and we're going to be using this word list to gain access to this computer system. Now, Hydra, for it to work properly, does need a username to be able to attack the proper credentials. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at a little bit into Hydra. Now, again, if you guys remember, the way that you find out any kind of information about a program, if you want to research it a little bit more, is you type in the man command, so man Hydra. Now, this will show you all the different types of descriptions for what it can do, the different types of options that are available for it, a description of those options, and there's lots of information available for this. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use a very simple format, and this is a really common format here. We're going to use the program Hydra, and you initialize that you want to use the program by typing it in. We're going to use the L option. Now what L does is it says login with the login name I provide for you, and that provided login name will go here, so we have a username that we're putting in. Now once you tell Hydra that you want to log in with the provided login number, you want to say I now want you to use a password list. And what a password list again is, since it's a generation of different words that people have either used as passwords in the past, or it's words that we're putting in from a dictionary, this is going to try all of these options and report back once it either fails or succeeds in getting access to the system. And we want to tell it where the location of our password list is. So for example, you would type in the path to your password list. And there is a very good password list to use first. It's some of the most commonly used passwords that have been compromised, and I will show you guys that in a second. And then finally what you want to do, so now we've said Hydra, log in with this username, use the password list here to crack the password, and you have to tell Hydra what kind of network logon port you're using. So we're using the SSH service, and you just want to type in the IP address that you're using. So in this situation, we do have some information that we can fill in here. So we know we want to attack the system using Saul, because most likely Saul has the least amount of credentials set up. And we do know the IP address for the system, which is, right here in ZenMap, and I forgot to add this IP address to my notes, so let's go ahead and add that on here. So that's 192.168.31.138. 31.138. All right, so we're going to copy this IP address here, and we are going to open up this terminal and go ahead and type this in. So we're going to log in as Saul, and typically I put all the usernames as lowercase. Just remember, casing is very important, but a lot of times people will not put capitalizations in their usernames. By default, what's really good about Linux, and we know it's a Linux system, is whenever you type a username in Linux or Unix, it automatically enters your name as all lowercase. And you guys might have noticed this when you've set up your Mac, or if you've ever worked with Linux, you notice that when you type in your name, the username always gets lowercased after that. All right, so we have the user that we want to log in as. We're going to use a password list, and this is a really good common password list that's built in to Kali Linux, which is in the user share John, which is a password cracker, password.lst. All right, and the last thing is the port, which is SSH. And again, I'm going to paste here, so Control-Shift-V, and it's going to paste in that IP address. So the thing about any kind of cracking tool, what it's doing in the background right now is it's going through one line at a time the different passwords that are in this password list. So what we're going to do really quickly while this is working in the background is I want to navigate to the list and show you guys how it looks. Okay, so we saw that the password list is in the user, share, and John folder. All right, and if you ls, you'll notice that there's a couple of different things of information here, and here we have this password.lst. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the cat to again show the contents of this file and print out this password.lst, and you can see it's not an extremely long list, but it's got a lot of things in here that are passwords. So what it's doing in the background right now is it's going through this list and it's going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's going to try that. If that doesn't work, it's going to go to the next one. If that doesn't work, it'll go to the next one and the next one and the next one. And the thing is that the faster your computer is, the faster this task will finish. And also depending on how much of your system's resources you have allocated for this. With this current setup that I have 4 gigabytes of RAM and I have 4 core processing allocated to my virtual machine. Now, if you only have about 500 megabytes of RAM and a single core processor, this task will take you a lot longer to finish. Another thing that's really important is to note down right here, for more word lists, go to openwall.com/word lists. So let's go to this website. Let's take a look while this is working in the background. And the thing about a word list is the longer your word list is, the longer it's going to take for your program to go through every single entry. So some people have created more efficient lists, and some people have created lists based off of what has already been compromised. So for example, there was a really big password list compromising for RockU. And if I'm not mistaken, RockU was one of the companies that managed passwords for MySpace. And so you want to find out some of these password lists and go through. Another one that's available is a company called Skull Security. So while this is loading up, let's go to that one. So it's going to be Skull Security password list. Now this open wall word list, if I'm not mistaken, you will not be able to open this on the Cal State Dominguez Hills domain. It is blocked because of it does provide information for hacking tools. But this right here, I have been able to get on the CSUDH network without any problems. And so what this is you have a lot of different types of password lists here. So you have the 500 worst passwords, 370 banned Twitter passwords. You have the standard password list from John the Ripper, as well as a lot of other stuff here. So MySpace, Hotmail. And as more passwords are compromised, people start uploading these passwords here. So just because something does not exist in one of the lists that you've tried, doesn't mean that it doesn't exist in another list. And on top of that, you can create any kind of generic list and just type in a bunch of words for it. There's word list generators that we're going to be going into a little bit of detail about. And all of these types of tools are going to be available for you. Now, in the real world, what a company will probably end up doing that this company, Heisenberg Corp, didn't do, is they'll probably have some kind of threshold. And what a threshold is it's it's a computer hardening technique where after 5 attempts that are incorrect for logging in, your computer gets temporarily timed out and will not allow you to enter the password. You guys might have noticed this on your phones, whether it's an Android phone or an iPhone, where if you've entered the password too many times or your fingerprint doesn't read so many times, it'll go to the next option. So if you put in your physical password wrong, then it will go and say you can't log in for another 30 seconds, or this phone is temporarily disabled for X amount of time. This corporation doesn't have it set up. Now, at the same time, don't overestimate the security of the company that you're penetrating into. Some companies might think that this kind of hack will never happen, and so therefore they might not set it up. So we're going to go ahead and let this just continue in the background, and I'll wait for it to give us some kind of response. All right, so Hydra finished, and we have some information here on the port 22, which is SSH for the host at the IP address 192.168.31.138. For login of Sol, we have a password of Gmoney. Now we can use this information to get access to Sol's account through remote access, and that's what they have set up through Secure Shell. So the way that you do this is you type in the username that you want to log in as, which is Sol, at the IP address, which is the 192.168.31.138. And what we're going to do is we're going to tell this to, we're logging in, but what protocol are we using? So we're using the SSH protocol, and we're going to log in. Now it's asking, do you want to continue? Say yes. All right, and it's asking for Saul's password. So the password is gmoney. Now the way that Unix and Linux work is that when I type in this password, you won't actually see anything being typed, no asterisks or dots or anything like that, but it's typing in the background. If you're unsure of what you typed, you will get another chance if you put it in incorrectly. Now, what we have here is we have a login. So we are now logged in onto this other virtual machine that's running in the background here without ever accessing the machine physically. So what we can do is some basic commands. Is we want to see what kind of files he might have on here. So let's go into the desktop. Any files there? No. So let's go into documents. Hey, there's some information here, jesse.txt. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the contents of Jesse. So cat jesse.txt. And we've got some information here. Now, what this is doing is this is kind of a fun way to do pen testing. So this is a capture the flag format. And this right here is a cipher. So I believe with this one, it's the Baconian cipher. So what you can do is you can copy this entire text and you can go to a website called Rumkin. Rumkin is a different site. It's a site for things like ciphers and steganography and a lot of different web-based tools. You'll find a lot of different hints throughout the machine that's like this, and I don't want to give you guys too much information because I do want you to be able to find some of this stuff yourself. So what we're going to do is click on the ciphers, and I believe that's a Baconian cipher, and what we want to do is decrypt this and put in your message. And this is telling us 64 64 32 64, and again that's another play right here. We're looking at a base 64 encryption. Okay, so what we can do is we can actually use that, which is probably telling us how many times we have to decrypt this, and we can just use terminal to do this. So what we're going to do here in the other window that we have going on, which is the root window. Let's open up a new window actually. Is we're going to use the command echo, and we're going to put in that base 64 text and pipe, and as you remember, pipe takes the output of one command as the input to the next command, which is base 64, and then give it the option to decrypt this text. So it says do it once and then do it one more time. So we're going to take the same command, except in here we are going to paste our new text. I might have to do that manually. All right, so let's do that one more time. So this was the output, and we're going to pipe again. And this, remember, so it says base 64, base 64, base 32, base 64, and I'm not 100% sure if there's a base 32 decryptor built into this or not. So we'll try that again. Hopefully it works. All right, and it did give us an output, so we're going to copy this output here. And again, it says the last one is another base 64, so we're going to do the same thing. All right, and we have just a random text here, blue sky. So that looks like it could be important. And so this information here, and let's say in this situation, let's try to use this a little bit more realistically. Saul is legal advice. There's no guarantee that Saul has any kind of loyalty to this company. And it could very well be that this is some kind of corporate level espionage. And he's trying to get some information out to a competitor, or he's trying to steal some information from the company. Let's have some fun with it, right? So what I'm going to do now is, now that I have this, I don't have to actually log in with SSH again. I want to take a look to make sure that I didn't leave any information behind. So I want to go back up and take a look at his downloads folder. I'll minimize this in the background so we can see a little bit better, and see if there's any folder files in here, which doesn't look like. And let's go to his pictures, and there's nothing in the pictures. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use a command called su, which is switch user, and then we're going to go to Jesse. All right, so it's telling the terminal, hey, I want to switch to this user as Jesse. Terminal saying, wait a minute, you are not Jesse. What's Jesse's password? So again, same thing. You won't be able to see the password, but we're going to go in. All right, now what you'll notice here is that we are logged in as Jesse. However, we're still in Saul's folder. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cd enter, and that takes us to our home location. And here we notice that we have a hash.txt, we have some pictures, and we have some information here. So this is a good place to start, because the hash.txt, if we cat this out, this is a password hash. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to cover password hashes in the next tutorial. So that one is going to be more detailed. When I start the password hash tutorial, I'm not going to start off directly where I leave off here. I do have to give you guys a little bit of a background, but once we're done, we'll be able to crack this hash here. All right, we'll see you guys in the next one.